Hello there. Tony, we must rub their noses in diversity, Blair, has told Keir Starmer he must focus on illegal migration, i.e. stop the boats. With an iron-grating screech, the political crypt has opened and Tony Blair has clawed his way out. And Sir Open Borders himself has advised the new Labour Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, to cut off Reform UK populism at the knees by controlling immigration. If we don't have rules, we get prejudices, he wrote in the Sunday Times. And here was me thinking that his answer was really to let everyone in and ensure there was a one-way prejudicial system against anyone who disagreed with him. Now Blair knows that the breadth of Labour's victory has more to do with a hatred of the Tories for not dealing with stuff like immigration than it had to do with any popular support for Labour. You only have to look at the electoral numbers behind that election landslide to realise that Labour has started its term on a knife edge of unpopularity. And Blair will know that splits over immigration within Labour are inevitable going forward, and those splits will emerge very quickly if they're not gripped rapidly. So he's trying to get that issue put to bed somehow, and fast. Now Cameron kept his Tory party, riven by the EU issue, together with a referendum and put it directly to the people. And although Cameron lost, his party was able to engineer the stifling of Brexit to keep the party together and neuter UKIP in the process by calling it job done. But Blair knows the outcome. Were a referendum on the issue of immigration to ever be put to the voters, so he won't be allowing that anytime soon. He also knows that just one slip and UKIP's successor, the Farage-led Brexit party now Reform UK, will profit. So there must be a semblance of a permanent-looking, fair system to any open doors plans that Labour has. It must somehow look fair to the party, Labour supporters and the wider electorate. And his answer is to focus on three things: illegal migration, not legal migration by the way, and he also wants to see a focus on law and order and avoiding pitfalls where wokeism is concerned. And all this includes the deployment of ID cards. We should move as the world is moving to digital ID. If not, new border controls will have to be highly effective, he wrote. And he pointed at countries like France where social cohesion is being disrupted, forgetting somehow that France does actually already have an ID card system, the Carte Nationale d'Identité, or CNI. And they're not helping France much at the moment, are they? Why do politicians do this? Politicians, eh? What do you think of them, Richard?
F*** 'em. F*** 'em all.
Ah, I see. Very informative. Anyway, as I see it, Blair is trying to head party splits on immigration off at the pass. But unlike with the Brexit vote that was used to kill off internal splits, there is no way of lancing this boil. Labour is wedded to woke. Labour is wedded to open borders. Labour is wedded to the WEF. Labour is wedded to the ECHR. All this together with a thoroughly woke civil service, police force and courts, Labour will not and can never deal with either legal or illegal migration. Labour will soon be riven from top to bottom over it. Reform UK will definitely profit. Richard.
Sir Patrick Vallance. Yes, do you remember him? Yes, that's right. He was the chap who stood next to Boris Johnson on the podium during the big fuss all about, that big fuss all about nothing, That man who wanted us all locked down and given experimental cough syrup Well, Sir Valence, with no vested interests whatsoever, who was chief scientific advisor to the government during the bad cough, has been brought in now by Keir Starmer as Minister of State for Science in the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology. Ah, yes. Wonderful. I think Valence's appointment should give you a really good idea of the direction of travel for a government headed by a World Economic Forum stooge who will gleefully implement any rule or regulation presented to him by the WHO as well. Yes, how utterly fantastic! We should be under the rule of those that deemed the unsafe and ineffective to be safe and effective. Expect mandates very soon. Expect an increasing government surveillance. Expect more of everything that keeps you awake at night in terror, and less of the things that give you security, as we all travel to hell in a handcart, singing "We'll keep the red flag flying," or maybe it'll be a rainbow flag this time. If you thought the establishment denial over the harms caused by the cough syrup was bad enough under the Tories, get ready for Labour to inject our young with any number of poisons they have coming down the pipeline. And speaking of the establishment denial, I am utterly devastated to hear of Andrew Bridgen losing his seat in Parliament. North West Leicestershire just voted out the one good man in Parliament who stood up for the people and against the satanic forces pitted against us. A man of great integrity who, if there was any credence and honour left in our honour system, should have been made Lord or even Knight of the Garter. But that is an institution filled with the likes of the late Mr. Saville and the late Bishop Peter Ball, both of whom were good friends of our King. No, the establishment did their best to destroy Andrew Bridgen's political career and life, and in many respects they succeeded. But Mr. Bridgen may have lost his seat and job, but he can hold his head up high as a man who sacrificed so much for his constituents and did the right thing for the people of this country, if not the world. I very much hope this is not the last we hear of Andrew Bridgen, and on behalf of Jeff and myself, and many of you on this channel, many of you supporters, I would like to thank him for his selfless service. God bless you, Andrew. He knows what you gave up, and he knows your heart. Jeff.
So the Rwanda scheme has been scrapped. The scheme that, although a very limited deterrent to those who arrive by rubber boat, was credited with moving a sizable proportion of the problem from the UK onto the Republic of Ireland. Something that Starmer would view with horror, because it makes the UK appear less welcoming on the world stage as he wanders off around the globe trying to impress all with his wokeness. What would his mates in the UN, the WEF, Bilderberg and all the others think were he to turn up at their lavish do's with the Rwanda albatross strung around his neck? So will that outflow of newcomers to the Irish Republic now reverse? Starmer will no doubt be hoping so, because it makes him appear so much more inclusive. And former Chief Immigration Officer Kevin Saunders said that this decision, together with Starmer's lack of any real plan, will result in a rubber dinghy open season. Starmer will be so pleased. His woke credentials are in order. Far better to allow the hotels to fill up more rapidly than under the Tories. He must be seen to be far more DEI than the Tories ever were. Far better to set in motion a huge house-building programme so as to accommodate all the newcomers. And to hell with the people who pay the financial and cultural bills. And once his Labour Party government has got into the full swing of pandering to the vote of a certain demographic, there will doubtless be many Jews heading for the departure lounges, so freeing up a few more houses for redistribution. And right on cue, the pro-Hamas marches continued yesterday, with 4 arrests. And Keir Starmer is already being advised to let local councils divest from the goods and services that Israel might supply them by his new Jewish Attorney General, Richard Hermer KC, who seems to disagree with Israel's response to atrocities. So it looks like UK public bodies will soon be able to go their own way in dictating international trade sanctions, albeit in a very limited form via a boycott, divestment and sanction, or BDS policy. But would that also include an anti-Semitic employment policy within the council, one wonders? And I wonder how a Jew or Israeli would fare in a planning dispute in such a council, or even someone perceived to be a supporter of Israel. I also wonder if pro-Israel constituents would therefore be able to withhold council tax on that basis. Oh, and one point to note about the new Attorney General. Starmer will be doing a Sunak-Cameron job by appointing an unelected person to the post by inserting them into the House of Lords instead of giving the job to one of his MPs. Is this an indication of just how shallow the expertise pool is within this huge new raft of Labour MPs? Richard.
Right now I am thanking my lucky stars that I am not a Jew living in Britain. They must be utterly terrified of what is heading their way now that Labour is in power. After all, Keir Starmer has just made it quite clear he is supporting the one demographic that is diametrically opposed to Jews existing at all. And he is even enshrining in law criticism of that demographic. But that's what Labour supporters want, so ignore that. Ignore the left's claims that they only want to see the people of Gaza live in peace and safety, because it is a lie. Otherwise, they would criticise Hamas. Yes, they surreptitiously hide behind their deceptions regarding Israel. And there are many deceptions that the left hold regarding Israel. Where is the support by the left for the women of Iran who have been bravely removing their headscarves and bodily coverings in public? It makes me sick that the middle-class left-wing here in the West pretend to have any idea about life in the Middle East, especially when it comes to women's rights, and especially when it comes to women's rights in Iran. Maybe those left-wing virtue-signalling narcissists should go and live in Iran for a few years to see how wonderful and inclusive life is there for women, or anyone who believes in the left's iteration of social justice. Go and see how life is there. See how you enjoy that, Mr. Lefty, Mrs. Lefty, whatever you are. Let's see how they fare as they are held hostage by, let's just say, satanic software that pervades every aspect of life in countries such as Iran. In recent months, Iran has been upping their game against Israel via Hezbollah, yet criticism of Iran by the left has been non-existent. Speaking of which, I do wonder how much Iran's new reformist president can achieve within the gaze of the fundamentalist clerics there. But we will know when certain demonstrations in the West begin to subside, as Iranian funding dries up. I am not holding my breath, though, or getting my hopes up, but aside from the physical aspects of Iran's proxy war with Israel within the confines of the Middle East, anti-Semitism will now be normalised by Keir Starmer's Labour, just as it pretty much was under Jeremy Corbyn's Labour, as will all anti-Christian rhetoric. Going to church has never been so rebellious an act. Jeff.
One of the worst outcomes from this general election, possibly even the worst, will be the constant displays of the inelegant sartorial disaster that is Angela Rayner. Here she is, exiting number 10, looking more like a piece of tumbleweed equipped with its own sails. Oh, and it's worse. It appears to be infectious too. Is this the future of a Labour administration, MPs queuing up to be the most ostentatious politician on the planet? It's a great opportunity for an up-and-coming fashion house. All they have to do is design something that would look more appropriate billowing in the wind atop the rigging of some 18th century man o' war, in the full knowledge that at least one of our government ministers will sport their product around the bazaars to their fellow world leaders, especially at the Davos functions for the WEF. I have a better idea though. Why not do what other ordinary people do when they go to work and represent their companies? Wear an item of clothing. Now what do they say about those who go about with pizzazz but achieve nout? Ah yes, all show, no go. Richard.
Shabana Mahmood is the new Lord Chancellor and Justice Secretary, which is utterly fantastic news if you're a... Anyway, what do you Jeremys and Katrinas think about what has been said in today's video? Leave your mumblings and your bumblings in the comment section below for Jeff and I to read. And thank you, all of you, for your support for us via Patreon, PayPal, and Super Chat, Super Thanks thingies on YouTube, and via locals as well, which we are embarrassingly not able to propagate as much as we'd like to, but that is something we will be working on. And the links are in the descriptions box below on how to keep supporting this channel and keep it going. And God bless each and every one of you. And bye for now. And get to church.